Call to order the City Commission meeting for September 15th, 2020. Let the records show they were missing one commissioner, Vice President Frederick. First item up is the order of business. Are there any changes to the order of business?
Mr. President, there are two changes to the order of business. The first one would be underneath Administration and Finance. If we could add item 3E, it will be a contract with Total Control Incorporated for asbestos inspection of the former Faith Expressions building. And underneath Public Safety, if we could add item 4A, Fire Department Proclamation.
Okay, any questions for Assistant City Administrator Dossinger? Comments on the amendments? Not, I'd look for a motion. We have a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
With a second. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the amended agenda, amended agenda, state aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Commissioners, on the consent agenda, are there any items you wish to discuss with city staff? On the consent agenda, I have the approval of accounts payable, approval of the ABM printer lease, and approval of a city appointment of CVB board member.
Mr. President, move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Oderman,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We'll move into the agenda. And the first item up, we have the Dickinson Airport budget. And representing the Dickinson Airport budget is Mr. Kelly Brown.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kelly Brown, I'm the
Afternoon.
airport manager. And today I've got a couple of things for you guys. First order is the budget for the airport. And before we get into all the details, I'd like to say thank you to the city of Dickinson for all the support that you've given us the last couple of years, especially during our runway reconstruction project. It's been hugely beneficial. This is a project that's going to serve Dickinson and Southwest North Dakota for a very, very long time. So I appreciate all the support that you've given us. I had Dakota Drone Works, a local company here in town, do a little video for you guys so that we can see where all that hard-earned money is going. So without any further ado, if we could dim the lights and roll that beautiful airport footage.
thank you for that video. That is pretty impressive. How thick is that, to bear 90,000 pounds? How thick is that
Yes,
concrete?
good questions. So the runway's poured in two separate sections. It's a temporary runway, so we're trying to conserve as much resource as we can. So the edges of the runway are about 7 inches thick of concrete, and then we've got about 22 inches of base course underneath that. The main center section, that 50-foot center section, is about 11 inches of concrete with the same 22-inch subbase underneath of it.
And then our new runway will be able to bear how much weight?
So the new runway right now, our target is 90,000, but after the concrete is cured and we send it to the lab for testing, we may be able to up that weight-bearing capacity to 100,000 or more. It all depends on where the test comes back. But right now, the target that we're shooting for is 90,000. And then the main runway, once that's rebuilt, will be 150 feet wide, so it'll be 50 feet wider than our temporary and 7,300 feet long.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Pretty impressive, seeing that all operate.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure and a privilege to be able to be a part of this project. And the credits kind of got screwed up a little bit at the end, but I think it's super important. All the companies that you see, with the exception of just a handful, are all local companies here in Dickinson. So every dollar that we invest in this project gets put back into the community. Not only do we get a fantastic facility when this is all done, but the funds that we use to build it are staying local, which is great. All right. So back to the budget. In your packet, there should be 2 sheets. One has got our expense summary on it. The other one has got our income summary on it. I'll just get down to the bottom line here. We have seen a significant impact to our operating income this year, and we expect that to continue through next year and possibly into the year following that. So if you look, what we had for a budget last year, what we have for a budget this year, there's a significant reduction. We're looking at $1,026,137 for an operating budget this coming year. Our income projection, again, very, very conservative, $1,073,457. Everything works out the way we want it to. We'll have about $47,320 in the bank at the end of the year next year. I can answer any questions that you guys have. If there's an expenditure that you want more detail on, I can give you that. Same thing with the income summary.
Mr. Brown, have you received any of the federal relief payments?
Yes. So the airport received CARES Act funds through 2 different grants that we got from the FAA. One, we received just a little over $1 million for in CARES Act money to cover operating expenses this year because of the significant impacts we've had. So that those funds are good for 4 years. We have 4 years to expend those funds. It's been a big relief for us, kind of taking some of the pressure off. And then we also received, see if I can find it here, $5,388,889 in CARES Act for next year's project, and that amount is the local share. So we got a grant, discretionary money of $10,798,333 for the runway project next year, and then this additional CARES Act money that we got of almost 5.4 matches our local share. So the 2021 AIP project out at the airport will be covered 100% in federal funds. So we won't have a local match in 2021.
Okay. Kind of good for us.
Yeah, it's good.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Brown on the airport budget? And required by state law, we must approve his budget. So if there are no questions, I'd look for a motion to either approve or deny the budget for the airport.
Mr. President, I'll move to approve.
I have a motion to approve the 2021 airport budget.
Second.
With a second. So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Walla, second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Brown? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Brown.
Yep. Thank you again for all the support. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing this through to the end.
Well, we appreciate all your hard work out there, so
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Maury has our monthly financial report.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. This financial report is as of August 31st, 2020. So starting with our net working cash total, you can see we're about 65 million, down just a little bit from the prior month where we were closer to 70 million. Part of that is our SRF payments all came out in August, which is a big part of what that decrease is. As far as our investments, we actually saw a slight increase. I know we talked about this at prior meetings as well, but our pension contributions are all made at the beginning of the year. So at this point, we're just getting interest and realized gains and losses. So we did increase just a little bit. We're a little bit over 38 million in our total investments. So moving on to our 1% sales tax collections, the red line is 2020, the blue line is 2019. So the August 2020 collection is down, as you can see on that graph, about 238,000. It's about a 31% decrease from August of 2019. Through the first 8 months total, we're down 142,000, which is a 3.5% decrease from the first 8 months of 2019. The 0.5% sales tax, as we always show, this is the exact same slide as you just saw, exactly half. We showed this just to show the public that we record these funds in two separate funds. In our hospitality tax, again in the red line, you can see in August of 2020, we're down about 16,000 compared to August of 2019. So about a 15% decrease in August. Through the first 8 months, we're down 52,000 total, which is an 8.2% decrease from the prior year. In occupancy tax, we're down about 10,500, a 28% decrease from the prior year. And then through the first 8 months, we were down about 60,000 total, which is also about a 28% decrease. And also, as a reminder, these funds are paid directly to the Convention and Visitors Bureau with a half of 1% of an administration fee taken out. Moving on to our oil impact revenue, you can also see a significant decrease in August 2020 compared to 2019, down about 373,000, so a 33% decrease in August. Through the first 8 months of the year, we're down about 1.4 million, which is a 16.3% decrease from the prior year. With our general fund revenue, so at this point in the year, being these numbers as of 8 months, so we should be roughly 2/3 with our collections. We are at 75%, roughly 75% collected, so we're ahead of where our collections should be at this point in the year, which is good. And then expenses, we're about 61%, so we're actually doing a little bit under budget on our expenses. So right on track for both general fund revenue and general fund expenses. For the enterprise funds, same goes for revenue. And revenue, we're just a little over 67% collected, so we're ahead of pace on there as well. And then our expenses, we're at 60.15% of our total budget expended, so we're also ahead of schedule with our enterprise fund expenses as well. With that, city staff recommends approval, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Maury on the monthly financial report? Now I look for a motion on the financial report.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Soboluk,
Second.
second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Soboluk,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Ms. Walla.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item up is our Chapter 2 Code Amendment. And City Attorney Winko will be handling this.
Correct, Mr. President, Commissioners. Before you is a code amendment for Article 2. I have to thank Commissioner Soboluk for bringing this to my attention. The code is a little bit antiquated in that it requires a quorum to be present physically in order for someone to appear telephonically. Given the COVID situation and things that we're experiencing, these amendments would allow us to be more flexible given those circumstances, to allow the commission members to appear via other electronic means, Zoom, GoToMeeting, so that we can still hold meetings given the pandemic and any additional crises that may come up in the future.
Well, appreciate catching that. I thought we had corrected that when we switched over to the telephone a couple of years ago. We were allowing commissioners to call in.
No, like I said, I have to thank Ms. Soboluk for scouring the code and finding that, and it was a worthwhile amendment and couldn't be more appropriate now given the circumstances. So staff recommend approval.
Okay. And this is ordinance.
I do have one question.
Okay.
With how we've edited, I like the way it's edited for us as commissioners. Is there any editing or anything we need to put anywhere? How, for a period of time, we only had it via YouTube. No one could come in here because of requirements. Does that need to be put anywhere that, because I'm sure it's going to stay on YouTube indefinitely now, which it should. Does any...
Commissioner Soboluk, are you referring to like open meeting sessions?
Yeah, thank you.
Typically what I've seen, at least what we're seeing from the governor's office with the proclamations regarding the executive orders limiting access and space, I think those directives, considering those are open meeting requirements, they're more state law specific than they would be city specific. So I would recommend the city just follow whatever guidance comes down from the governor with regard to open meetings.
Thank you.
And this is 1701, ordinance 1701. This is the first reading. At the second reading, we will have the public hearing. So are there any questions, comments, commissioners, on this Chapter 2 Code Amendment? Hearing no questions or comments, I'd look for a motion on 1701.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Soboluk to approve 1701,
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Walla. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Go ahead and vote. Mrs. Soboluk,
Aye.
Ms. Walla,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
chair votes aye, motion carries. We have a report. Assistant City Administrator Dossinger, you have a report from the North Dakota League of Cities.
Thank you, Mr. President. The North Dakota League of Cities is hosting a virtual conference this year. I'd like to remind the commissioners that if they are interested in going to any of the virtual sessions, they need to let Rita know so that she can get you registered in time. The deadline for registration is September 21st, and the conference dates are from September 24th through the 30th. So if you are interested in taking any of the virtual sessions, please get in touch with Rita by the 21st.
And we have one added item this evening. Mr. Dossinger, you have a proposal by Total Control to do I guess a recon of our new city hall where it's going to be our commission chambers. They want to go through there and look through the building, see if there's any additional work that needs to be done.
Correct. This is an action item. It is a contract with Total Control Incorporated to do asbestos inspection of the former Faith Expressions building for the sum of approximately $800 to $1,200. At this time, staff is requesting approval of this contract so they can get in there and take a look at it.
Okay. And if we have any further questions, Mr. Schwint is here. If you have questions for him, he has gone through the building, as did I and Commissioner Frederick, along with Mrs. Carlson and the architects last week when they were doing the RFP for the improvements to the building. I think there'll be a second tour for architects just so they can get a better feel, because we weren't able to get completely into every place that we needed to go. So we're going to extend the RFP and let them go through again. So, and this will assist them also by having Total Control go in there and look if there are any concerns. It is an older building. So any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion on this contract.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve this contract with Total Control by Commissioner Oderman,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We'll move into public safety, and this evening, we have, our agenda is amended to include a proclamation. That was originally planned to be presented by, I guess it is by Fire Chief Presnell. So, good evening.
Fire Prevention Week is a national campaign put on by the National Fire Protection Association, just to educate public about fire safety. Sorry. It's been around since about 1925, when one of the presidents signed it into effect. This year's theme is serve up fire safety in the kitchen, with cooking being the leading cause of home fires and fire injuries in the United States. That is the theme this year. Thank you. I can answer any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you, Chief Presnell. Any questions for the chief? Hearing none, I have the proclamation in front of me. I shall read it. City of Dickinson, North Dakota, proclamation. Whereas the City of Dickinson, North Dakota is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Dickinson, and whereas the fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. And whereas 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of those fires resulting from unattended cooking. And whereas Dickinson residents should stay in the kitchen when frying food on the stovetop, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around cooking areas, and keep anything that can catch fire away from the stovetops. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas Dickinson's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2020 fire prevention theme, Serve Up Fire Safety in the Kitchen, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Therefore, I, Mayor Decker of Dickinson, do hereby proclaim October 4th through the 10th, 2020, as Fire Prevention Week, and throughout Dickinson, I would urge the people of Dickinson to check their kitchens for fire hazards and using safe cooking practices during Fire Prevention Week 2020. and to support the many public safety activities and efforts for the Dickinson Fire and Emergency Services. To officially approve this proclamation, I would look for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the proclamation for Fire Safety Week 2020.
Second.
And a second. All in favor of approving the fire proclamation, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Sign this. Hand that down to Mr. Dossinger. And thank you, Fire Department, for all your hard work and effort and training, as we thank all our city employees for their hard work and diligence over the year and promoting the safety of our citizens. We will move into our 5 o'clock timetable. And the very first item up will be presented by City County Planner Josephson. We have a public hearing for a Chapter 39 amendment for the Downtown Overlay District. Mr. Josephson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President and Commissioners. Steve Josephson. This is a second reading of Ordinance 1700. What it does is, if approved, it'll add in the block-and-a-half area to the Downtown Overlay District, added into the Overlay District that had been previously approved. We had covered the Overlay District at the last meeting, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Josephson. Any questions for Mr. Josephson on Ordinance 1700, which is a Chapter 39 amendment to our downtown overlay? There are no questions. This is a public hearing. I will open up the public hearing to anyone that has any concerns or comments on Ordinance 1700 and the amendment to our Chapter 39 Downtown Overlay District. Please come forward, state your name, let us know your concerns or have any comments on this amendment. Also, if you are listening online and you wish to call in with any comments or concerns, you may call 701-456-7006.
The conference is currently empty. You will hear silence or music on hold when connected.
So if there is anyone from the public listening or watching online, if you have any concerns, 701-456-7006, or if there's anyone in the audience here wishes to state any concerns or comments on this, please come forward. Anyone have any concerns? Not seeing or hearing anybody from the public with any concerns on Chapter 39. Commissioners, again, if you have any questions for Mr. Josephson or staff, please ask them at this time. If there are no questions, I'd look for a motion on Ordinance 1700.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Walla. Any further discussion, comments, or questions? Not hearing any, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Our next item up is also a public hearing, and this is for the 2021 budget. This will be presented by our accountant, Mr. Morey. Good evening.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. This ordinance is presented as the first reading and public hearing of the 2021 annual appropriations and tax levy. Included in the appropriations is all general fund departments, contingency, and transfers out, as well as special revenue funds, debt service funds, and proprietary funds. The total general fund revenue and expense budget in 2021 is $20,750,873, which is an increase of $397,000 over the prior year. That increase is just under 2% compared to the 2020 budget of $20,353,000. Our tax levy for the city is $5,724,000, which is the same amount requested in 2020. This amount includes 4 mills for both the library and the airport, with an estimated tax of $481,000 for each entity. Due to an estimated taxable value increase for the 2021 budget, we are estimating our total mills to lower from 48.12 to 47.58 to get the $5,724,000 that we have requested in the 2021 budget. City staff is recommending approval of the first reading of the annual appropriation and tax levy for 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Maury. Any questions from commissioners on the 2021 budget? This would be ordinance 1702. If there are no questions from commissioners, I will open up the public hearing. If there's anyone from the public has any concerns or questions on our 2021 budget or needs any of the numbers restated, please come forward, state your name, let us know your concerns. If you're watching online, you may call 701-456-7006 and state your concern or questions. Again, this is the 2021 budget for the city of Dickinson. Anyone have any concerns or questions, comments? This is the public hearing, so if there are any concerns, please come forward. Seeing no one from the public has any concerns or questions on our 2021 budget, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are there any questions you wish to ask city staff on our 2021 budget? If not, I'd look for a motion on ordinance 1702.
I'll move to approve ordinance 1702.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sobeluk, this ordinance 1702, our 2021 budget.
Second.
Enthusiastic double second by Commissioner Oderman and Commissioner Walla. So,
John can have it.
okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or comments on ordinance 1702? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. There will be a second reading of the budget at our next city commission meeting. We also have a public hearing for the right-of-way vacation for Pinecrest, and that'll be handled by Assistant City Engineer Marshik.
President Decker, Commissioners, in your packet was a document showing what we have on screen, which is a vacation request for right-of-way within the Pinecrest subdivision. This area is located in the southwest corner of the intersection of 21st Street West and 30th Avenue West. The property is currently owned by one owner, and so this right-of-way would be divided up between the 3 lots that you see on this document, and the owner would retain that property. The intent is that this will revert back to an ag, or it has reverted back to an ag use, and will become a property that is going to be developed as a residential home. The intent is to move forward based on the decision tonight to combine these lots in another fashion via an irregular plat. For this vacation, city staff is recommending approval of this vacation. Do you have any questions on this item?
On this plat, we have a road construction on here. That road was never the Pinecrest Parkway, just,
We are keeping that
Okay.
because we have city utilities in that right of way. So we do not want to vacate that property. However, there is no utilities, and we got consensus in the application from other utility companies that nothing is running in these areas of right of way that are notated in red.
okay. And then the lot 2 that sits off of that utility vacation, that's where the water tower sits.
That would be correct.
And there's no, I know they want to combine these lots for residential. Is there any setback off of that lot?
We would look at that when they
Okay.
come forward with what their plan is for the property. They just didn't want to move forward with too many things and then have this be denied for some
Okay.
reason.
Any questions, commissioners?
So
think
if you
there-
would approve this right-of-way vacation, then there could be a plat that comes forward in the future that might have a road in a different spot or something else, or,
That could be possible, but at this time, we would probably see zoning changes first
okay.
and some other development ideas. But the intent, our understanding is the intent is to build a residential home in this location and just leave it as an ag property.
And is this city property or is it part of the ETZ?
This,
I
think,
believe this is
This
in-
is city.
This is the
City.
city one?
If this is outside the city limits, I think this was inside the city limits.
Yes, Commissioners, it is in the city limits and zoned agricultural now, and Ms. Marshak addressed it well in that if there's any other proposals that come through, they would have to go through a subdivision process to either recreate or rededicate either of those lots or a reconfiguration of those lots.
And there is not currently a house on this plot, on this section, is there?
Correct.
Right.
Okay, if there are no further questions from commissioners, this is a public hearing. And this is, find it here, resolution
33-2020.
33-2020. So this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing. If anyone has any concerns, comments on resolution 33-2020, which is a vacation, a utility vacation, please come forward, state your name, let us know your concerns. For the listening public, same item, 701-456-7006. You may call in and voice your concerns.
Good evening, President Decker and Commissioners. My name is Perry Baselook. My wife and I have purchased this property in Pinecrest. Our reason for the vacation is the fact that it was to be developed on behalf of the previous owner by another developer, and of course they failed to do so within a certain amount of time. So as the city staff stated, the property has reverted back to an ag zoning. Anyone that's familiar with the property up there knows that there is very mature pine groves excuse me, in the area, and it attracted my wife and I to it due to the seclusion of the area. Our intent is to build, and there is no short-term plans for any redevelopment. I won't rule that out in the future, but we want it to be treated as a singular parcel for our development at this point. Thank you. Any questions? I can surely try to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Baseblue?
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Concerns or comments on this utility vacation?
Just to clarify, President Decker, it would
Oh,
be a right-of-way.
right-of-way vacation, that's right, right-of-way vacation. Thank you for the correction. Again, this is resolution 33-2020. Are there any public concerns on the right-of-way vacation? Seeing and hearing none, close the public hearing. Commissioners, any questions for staff or Mr. Baseflug? Hearing none, I look for a motion on Resolution 33-2020.
I'll move to approve Resolution 33, 2020.
We have a motion to approve by Ms. Walla
Second.
and a second by Mr. Oderman. Any further questions? Comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
This is also the segment of our evening at commission meeting. If the public has any concerns or comments that are not on our agenda, I would like you to come forward and voice your comments or your concerns to the city commission. Any item that is not on the agenda, please come forward, state your name. You may also call in to 456-7006 and state your comments or questions for the city commission that are not on the agenda. Anyone have any concerns or comments on items not appearing on our agenda?
One was brought up. 210. Yep. Okay.
Do no one have any concerns or comments about items not on the agenda? We'll close that section of our meeting. We will return to we left off at fire. Police this evening. We'll move right into the engineering. We have a 2021 Millen overlay location. That will be presented by Assistant City Engineer Marshall.
President Decker, Commissioners, we have 3 items on tonight's agenda that deal with the 2021 Millen overlay. Our first item is to share with you locations, and then we'll move into discussions about process and if we can use the same process for the Millen overlay that we did in 2020. And then we would move on to a task order amendment for work to continue forward with this project with KLJ. So in moving forward with the first item, I'd like to introduce Carl Jackson with KLJ, and he's going to walk us through what he assisted us, he and his staff, with city staff to come up with different locations in the city and how we came about prioritizing one area. Carl?
Okay, thanks, Loretta. Excuse
Evening.
me. Mayor Decker and Commissioners, so this is just picking up on where we left off at the last commission meeting. This discussion was tabled, and it's just basically a recap of the 2021 Millen Overlay project that we started about a month ago and hope to bid this winter for construction next year. I wanted to also mention that with me is Andrew Krebs, who is our lead project engineer on this current year's Millen Overlay. That's going really well, and will be helping us with next year's project as well. So he might be able to answer any questions you have too. So again, as Loretta mentioned, this is covering items A, B, and then depending on that discussion, it will roll into C altogether. So we'll switch back and forth between a couple of slides here. So a summary of the 2021 Millen Overlay. It's again street maintenance. That's the primary intent, and so it doesn't include utilities. It's primarily surface improvements. So it'll be milling and overlaying pavement where it's really deteriorated. We'll reconstruct the entire pavement section. It also includes curb and gutter and sidewalk, and then ADA ramps, either if they need to be replaced because they're in non-compliance, or if they're missing, we'll add ADA ramps. And so that's the general nature of the project. looking at this year's project, and I'm going to switch back and forth between a couple of slides. So there were 6 zones that are, as we indicate on this bullet here, there are 6 zones identified for improvements. Then they've been vetted by city staff and our team. There are 2 maps in your packet. This one, I think, shows the zones a little more clearly. And so you can see where the 6 zones were identified. Zone 1 in the upper left corner there. See my pointer here. Zone 1 is the one we ended up settling in on as the recommended zone. The process basically was to find the right project that could be contiguous but also fit within the city's $3.5 million budget. And so what we did is we looked at the pavement condition based on the report that was done a couple of years ago. We also wanted to validate the pavement condition within these zones, and so we did our own ground survey and basically drove every street and did a preliminary, kind of a cursory assessment of the pavement condition in making sure that these zones make sense and that they truly need pavement maintenance. And so after that process, you know, zones 5 and 6 actually have some pretty rough pavement down here in the lower part of your screen. They've got some pretty rough pavement, but we identified, talking to city staff, that there are some utility rehabilitations that need to occur there that aren't currently able to be included in the same budget in the same construction season. So zones 5 and 6, I suspect will be on the radar in the near future for pavement maintenance. But because of that, we ended up focusing our attention on zone 1. Again, it's a combination of the continuity of the streets, the pavement condition, and then trying to find the right mix of roads that met the city's budget for this year. And so we identified zone 1 as the recommended area for next year's mill and overlay project. I just wanted to mention too, last commission meeting, Tweeton Place was brought up. And so what we did in KLJ's task order, that's item C, is we included an evaluation of Tweeton to just try to figure out some options for you to fix some drainage concerns in that cul-de-sac. And so if after that evaluation it's decided that Tweeton does need to be a priority, it's not too late to add that into this project. If budget concerns become evident, then we'll either need to come back to you and request a little bit more money to include Tweeton, or we could look at all the other streets that are in zone 1 and see if it makes sense to just cut one out or something. And so we'll look at that in the next few weeks and make that part of a recommendation working with city staff. Okay, so similar to this year's project, it's anticipated that the mill and overlay for next year will include a special improvement district. And if you recall, the City Commission approved a special assessment policy last December of 2019. And so it would basically be the same program. And I think that's what the goal has been of city leadership, is to establish a consistent way of going about these projects. And so the assessable items, as shown on the screen here, it's basically the concrete work. So it's curb, gutter, sidewalk. But as a reminder, we're not assessing for any of the ADA repairs, because typically the ADA repairs occur at a corner where it's not really fronting anyone's individual lot. It's where the right-of-ways come together. And so ADA ramps will not be assessed. And then also the street pavement, that won't be assessed. That's coming out of the city's budget. Item B on your agenda, just to clarify, it's not to formally approve specific assessments and specific lots or anything. That's going to come through a formal SID creation process later this fall. And a rough schedule. So this fall we'll get going with design as soon as you're ready, and the SID creation process will take place in that November, December time frame. Hopefully it will be finished before the first of the year, so that we can bid it in late January, early February, trying to get ready for a competitive bid season, and then also start construction as soon as weather allows next summer. There's some other information in your packets that I'd be glad to answer questions on. We're not really prepared to go through all the details, but you have another map. Oh yeah, it did show up. This one's really busy. So basically it's just depicting the zones and the relative pavement condition, and we don't need to go through those in detail. Unless you have questions, it's available for you. And what's not on the screen but also was in your packet is the spreadsheet breaking down the cost estimates for each block. So if you have any questions, we can answer questions on those too.
Thank you, Carl. At this time, if you have any questions about location, city staff would like to recommend moving forward towards working in our Area 1. And it is, I guess, our recommendation, and we would like to hear if you have questions about that, or if you would like to make a motion to move forward with that location for next year's project.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshak. Any questions for city staff or Mr. Jackson on the location? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion on the 2021 Mill and Overlay Special Improvement District.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Soboluk.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further questions for city staff or Mr. Jackson? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next item up is the 2021 Mill and Overlay Task Order Amendment with KLJ. And this will be handled by Assistant City Engineer Marshak.
President Decker, Commissioners, I just want to clarify before we move forward, if Ms. Wenko can speak to if we need two separate motions for the locations and utilizing that special improvement district policy to move forward, or if that one motion would take care of both of those items.
To answer Ms. Marshak's question, I would recommend, considering there are two substantively different issues, that the commission make two different motions.
So the first motion was to approve the selection of the location. The second one will be to approve the district. So, look for a motion on approving the district.
I'm slightly confused here, help me. So what are we approving now?
So the first one was to approve our recommendation to use location 1 as
Okay.
the area we want to work on next year. This next item, what we're looking for is your approval to follow last year's policy, which would be to special assess the concrete work, which would include curb and gutter and the sidewalk installation as needed.
So what he had shared on that slide, Mr. Jackson had shared on that slide.
Correct, that would be right.
So are there any other questions, commissioners, for Mrs. Marshak? This is the second motion that I'm looking for would be to approve the special improvement district.
Policy.
The policy, yes.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Walla to approve the SID,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We have Task Order 2004-01117, which is for professional services from KLJ on the Dickinson 2021 Mill and Overlay. Mrs. Marshak?
President Decker, Commissioners, this is the task order amendment that Mr. Jackson referred to. This would cover professional services consisting of preliminary and final engineering, design, bidding, and creation of the special assessment district. This amendment is a not to exceed amount of $157,000, $57,500. City engineering staff recommends approval of this task order amendment. Do you have any questions about the task order amendment that was enclosed in your packets that I could help you with?
Thank you, Mrs. Marshak. Any questions for city staff on this task order? Hearing none, I look for a motion on task order 2004-01117.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Walla. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman.
Aye.
Ms. Walla.
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the Marquee properties. Assistant City Engineer Marshik, you'll be handling both items here, 1 and 2, a development agreement and a multi-party funding agreement.
Thank you, President Decker, Commissioners. The first item brought before you and included in your packet is a development agreement for Marquee property. This agreement has been discussed and worked on for quite a while with city staff, and this is for development of infill in Country Oaks Estates Second Edition. So the lots 1, 3, 4A, and 4C of Block 1, and lots 4A, 5A, 5B, and 6 of Block 3 of that addition are adjacent to an undeveloped portion of Country Oak Drive. So the applicant is looking to work with the city on finishing the development of this right-of-way so that they could move forward with residential development along that roadway. Do you have, so city staff is recommending approval of the development agreement with Marquee property. Do you have any questions for me as far as that development agreement?
Thank you, Mrs. Marshik. Any questions for Mrs. Marshik? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion on the development agreement with Marquee Properties.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve the development agreement by Commissioner Sobeluk.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Walla. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. The second part is a multi-party funding agreement. Mrs. Marshik?
That's correct. This agreement is for your consideration between the Marquee property and Northern Improvement Company. This agreement follows our new template with the exception of requiring the contractor to bond at 120% for 2 years. And part of this change has to do with this property already being partially constructed as the utilities are already in, and that these discussions were going on before we set up these templates. As I had said, the agreement will be between Marquee Property and Development and Northern Improvement Company with the City of Dickinson. It provides the developer, or requires the developer to provide financial security in the amount of $185,969.64 with 120% of the project, which is 120% of the project cost. City engineering staff is recommending approval of this multi-party agreement with Marquee Property and Development and Northern Improvement Company. Do you have any questions I can help you with on this multi-party funding agreement?
Thank you, Mrs. Marshik. Any questions for Mrs. Marshik or city staff on this funding agreement? Hearing no questions or comments, I'd look for a motion on the funding agreement.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Walla. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item up is we have a bid from Berger Electric for our feed point at new City Hall. Mrs. Marshak, you'll be handling this?
That is correct, President Decker. Commissioners, for your consideration is a bid from Berger Electric for feed point and circuit work in our downtown area, especially needed to service the American Bank Center. The total bid price was $24,481 for 2 new circuit feed points in the alley and new circuitry along with 3 ground boxes from the new feed point to the southwest corner of the new American Bank Center. This was one of 2 bids, and this was the low bidder. City engineering staff has reviewed the bid and recommends approval of the Berger Electric proposal.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshak. Any questions or comments on this task order? This is task order number 200156-01.
I do have one question on this. So it says providing a feed point to the new American Bank Center, southwest corner of the new American Bank Center. So is it American Bank Centers or our property, or the city's property, new property they're acquiring?
The feed point will work for multiple areas downtown, but the new American Bank Center needs this feed point location to be able to tie into with their new property.
I mean, I did speak. It is for the new, but it will service the whole area there. So.
Okay, so it'll go into the new American Bank Center building, but it'll service us at City Hall?
I'm not sure how that circuitry work, what those locations are for those. Mr. Schneider can address that and help me with the
He was
electrical.
getting anxious back there, so he wanted to.
But it will, it's definitely needed in a timely manner because of the project that the American Bank Center has. And I'll let Mr. Schneider fill you in.
President Decker and Commissioners, I can just clarify, the feed point for this area is actually west on 2nd Street in the alley between 2nd Avenue West and 3rd Avenue West. And so that's why the power needs to come from over there for this whole entire area. It's basically from 2nd Street up to 3rd Street, 3rd Avenue, all the way over to the alley on the east side of American's new site. So it's that whole entire area this feed point will feed when eventually we put up all new decorative lighting in this entire circuit area. But right now it's just to get power to those street lights that they're installing. Does that help?
It does. The streetlights part, I missed out on the first go around, so yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Any other questions for city staff on this task order? Again, this is task order 200156-01.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sobeluk.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Ms. Walla? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Let's see. No reports from Mr. Zuroff this evening. We'll go into planning. We have a future land use amendment.
President Decker, we
Miss-
have
oh.
one more item. It's a task order with Highlands Engineering.
Oh,
Item F.
thank you, thank you. I jumped right over the task order.
I know I'm talking a lot this evening, but
Yeah.
one more. I
One
promise.
more.
So President Decker, Commissioners, this is a task order for Highlands Engineering for the 4th Avenue East scoping project. This task order is for professional services consisting of surveying, field investigation, and engineering analysis of 4th Avenue East from 21st Street East to 26th Street East. I believe there was a typo in the memo. So the correct street is 26th. This is in order to provide a recommendation for the scope of the project improvements and approximate project costs associated with the project. The work is a not to exceed amount with this task order of $17,290. Just as added notes, this project is an urban roads project with construction planned in 2022, pending availability of federal funds. And at this time, the estimated cost is approximately $900,000, with our local share being $180,000. City engineering staff is recommending approval of the task order with Highlands Engineering. Do you have any questions on this task order that I can help you with?
Any questions for Mrs. Marshak on the Highlands Engineering task order? Hearing no questions, I'd look for a motion on this task order.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Sobeluk to approve the Highlands task order.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mrs. Sobeluk,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Ms. Walla.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we'll go on to planning. And we have a Flume amendment. Planning Director Hadley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and Commissioners. This would be first reading of Ordinance 1703, and it's to consider approval of future land use amendment from commercial to residential for portions of lots 1 through 7, Block 5, Pinecrest First Edition, as depicted in the application. The Planning Commission heard this item on August 19th, 2020, and recommended approval. Staff would also recommend approval of this. It also coincides with the next item, which allows that application to move forward. It's kind of a chain of applications that allow each other to happen. As you can see on the slide, this area is the area we're talking about, where we're looking to do the new residential portion of Pinecrest development. This area along 30th and along 15th is all still the areas that are remaining as commercial in the long-range plan. And that was a long discussion. We did have many discussions on that during the Planning Commission meeting, but the Planning Commission did review and approve that. And with that, staff would recommend approval of the first reading of 1703, Ordinance 1703.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Any questions for Mr. Hadley on this proposed future use amendment?
I just want to say that I think it's fantastic that we're finding a way to keep those trees there. But there's not a lot of trees in this area that are nice and mature like that, and to find a way that we can maintain those and bring a residential area in there, I think these lots will go really fast, and we'll have a nice development there. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think the applicant, has taken good strides to try to do that and try to preserve that, and they see that need as well.
Any other questions or comments? This is Ordinance 1703. And this is a future land use amendment. It'll be the first reading. Second reading and public hearing will happen our next meeting. So if there are no further questions, Mr. Hadley, I'd look for a motion on 1703.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sobeluk.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Walla. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Sobeluk, Ms. Walla,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next item up is a planned unit development, a PUD for Pinecrest First Edition. and this will be ordinance 1704.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this would be the first reading of the PUD designated for this same area that we just got done talking about, the future land use amendment to. It allows this PUD, oops, sorry. Once again, you can see this is the area that we were just looking at for the amended area. The larger lot proposed residential area. The commercial area would be over here. Commercial is down here as well. If we look at the, oops. To be smarter than a remote. This would be the profile in the PUD that we're discussing right now for the roadway, the section. Just to clarify, where the Planning Commission reviewed and approved this, it would be a sidewalk on the inside, a planter strip with lighting and trees, a 36-foot wide roadway curb to curb, and then a sidewalk in this particular area. This needs to be updated, and I think the applicant has updated that for a meeting tomorrow. 5-foot sidewalk adjacent to curb, and then a 5-foot green area adjacent to that on the outside. So if we're looking at where that is, here's the road, so there would be a sidewalk adjacent to curb all the way around. The outside, there would be our typical planter space, curb, planter space, and sidewalk on the inside of this development. Once again, the Planning Commission heard this item on August 19th, and neither one of these had any public testimony at that time. This would be the first reading of 1704, as the mayor said. Staff would recommend approval of the first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Any questions for Mr. Hadley on this planned unit development? This would be ordinance 1704.
I know there was talk in that meeting about this being just one-sided parking, and that's kind of what that street depicted. Was that still the plan, or is that, has that been edited?
It is. That's a discussion item that I think the developer may want to still consider tomorrow morning at my Planning Commission meeting. The actual plat for Pinecrest we'll be going through, and that will be part of the discussion there, because this will lead to a development agreement similar to what Ms. Marshak just proposed for that other development. So we'll have an agreement in place and conditions on that plat that also show that. So I think right now the initial proposal was to not have parking there, to free up the area so it would be freed up for emergency services. Obviously, we also had a long discussion at the meeting on whether it be enforcement. It obviously is a public road, so that public roadway will be signed for no parking, but if someone's parking there, they will have to call the police department for enforcement of that. So it wouldn't be a private homeowners association doing that. Did that answer your question, I hope?
It was a very lengthy discussion that
Yeah,
morning.
sorry.
If you watched.
I've been accused of that before, yeah.
It was long.
Mr. Hadley, just one question. Would that be a private street, or would that actually be a municipal street?
It's a public road,
Public
sir.
road.
Yep.
And then I'm sure there'll be further discussion. I know there was other concerns besides fire services, just the one access point. I'm still concerned with the one access point, just the one road. Sometimes I think that leads to some issues, but okay, any other questions or comments for Mr. Hadley on this PUD? Once again, this is ordinance 1704. It is a planned unit development for Pinecrest First Edition. There are no...
And this is just, they still have further planning from this. This is not the final plan that we'll be approving of this, correct?
Right. This planned unit development is just an overlay of this area that just allows them to have these different uses mixed together. There's some discussion. One of the other comments and discussions that we had was the area right here, buffering between the backyards of these residential areas and the commercial, there would be some sort of a screen. And so in the development agreement, there would be a screening requirement, which we required in other developments. This area to the south has a row of trees, so I'm not sure if the planning commission will look to have an additional screen, but it's a pretty good screen at this point, as long, we do have a condition in the PUD itself to maintain those tree rows and replace them as they die off as whatever. So it actually becomes part of that development, and it's conditioned that as one dies, they will have to replace it and care for those as part of the development. And that would be a private homeowners association that would actually do that.
And there was some discussion too, limiting the commercial use to the east of exactly what it could be.
Yeah.
So you, all of a sudden, you don't have a hotel going up there in somebody's backyard. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. How do they get to that? You know, because I did hear that they weren't wanting turns off of 30th. So those commercial lots along 30th there, how do you get on and off?
There's a constructed road, if you can see that it comes up from
Right here.
16th or 15th and loops around.
Okay.
It's right here. You can see it on that one.
Any other comments, questions? Now I look for a motion on 1704.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Oderman to approve,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Hadley. Next item up, we have commission minutes, or the commission part of the agenda. Commissioner Walla, I did not receive that email yet. So I guess if it is something that needs to be brought to attention, if you could.
I'm not sure who all received from Bruce Burt.
I got it.
Water issues is what he had. You were on here, so I can
Yeah,
forward it
it's
to
not
you.
down. Yeah, it's,
I just did the two again.
How do you want me to handle this? So on February 9th, 2020 at 2 p.m., they noticed water coming out of the ground in their front yard just a few feet from their home. We immediately called the city and reported the leak. A city employee stopped by to check it out and said he would return with the equipment to shut off our water. City employees returned and closed the curb stop, but it did not slow down and the flow of water in our yard. City workers then attempted to stop the flow of water at our block. They worked for 7 hours before getting the water shut off. Our foundation held off the water for 5 hours before giving up and flooding the basement. And they're on 4th Avenue Southwest. Do you want me to just keep reading?
is this something you're quite aware of?
I'll lead this question.
Okay.
Okay.
This is, Mr. President, Commissioners, this is an issue that myself, Ms. Carlson, Mr. Zuroff are well aware of the situation. This occurred several months ago. This was reported through NDERF.
Okay.
Our insurance carrier denied Mr. Burke's claim. I have informed him of that, and so I think he's potentially reaching out to you to seek additional recourse or potentially a different remedy. But this has been vetted by the city's insurance carrier, and they have denied coverage. So if there's additional conversations that we need to have with Mr. Burke, we certainly can have those conversations, but to bring you up to speed,
Okay.
that has gone through the process already.
Okay, so really he could appeal the
It would
the
be up to
decision.
Mr. Burr to make the
Right.
decision what his next step will be.
Right, so he could appeal the decision and go through that process with the insurance company.
That could be one of those issues if he chose to do that, but
Okay,
it has been vetted and it has gone through the process.
very good. I did give him the number for the public comments, but he missed the,
Oh, he did? Okay.
yep.
So this is something that city staff is aware of and working on, so I just did receive the forward from you, so I don't know why his original didn't come to me, but, and duly.
Your ND superintendent is where.
Yeah, well, that's my regular one, so. We'll continue to work with the Burks. Are there any other items, commissioners, that you wish to bring up, discuss, that were not on the agenda, or just anything in general that need to be brought to the public's attention or addressed by city staff?
Did you have something for
I
earlier?
do have one the tour of the new city hall. Is there anything exciting you want? I don't know. Was there anything that we should know about? I know you guys went over there and toured it last week, and so I just didn't know if there was anything that we should be brought up.
They just, the architects walked through, just looked it over. Like I said, we didn't get full access as originally intended, so they're gonna have a second walkthrough so that they can better assess the situation. City court was brought in, their needs, their requests, what they would like to happen. I think everybody's gonna give a little on this. We're moving into a much bigger facility, but it's got a bigger facility for city staff with offices, a lot. We as commissioners are gonna be in a smaller room. And that's okay. I mean, most of the time this is our audience, so.
We're usually packed.
Yeah. Since I've been here, there's only been 2 nights the place is standing room only, so I think we can make do in a little smaller venue for us.
And are those walkthroughs, are those not considered city meetings, so can only 2 commissioners go, or could more come?
Well, there was just, it wasn't as an advertised meeting.
Okay.
So we can advertise it if you want, the next one as a special, or I don't have to go next time, and I don't think Mr. Frederick needs to go next time.
'Cause
So
I
we can
would-
have
I would
2
like to, yeah.
completely different commissioners walk through, and I'm fine with that, or we can advertise it as a special. I'm all for more input for, they're basically looking at what we have here, putting it back in there, the concerns with IT for, one of the items, instead of having these drop downs, we requested now to have like 60-inch screens, like regular TVs or monitors. That way you don't have to turn off the lights, you have the monitor. There's really not necessary to have a monitor in front of us. This one really hasn't worked since I've been here, so. We're gonna have a smaller podium. We asked for, it's just basically taking this and putting it into the old Christian bookstore, and then trying to accommodate the security needs for the city staff. Now, when they come in the front building, there'll be some barriers that have to be erected. One of the concerns too is we have to construct a ADA bathroom that doesn't exist on the first floor. For
Nowhere on the first floor, or just?
Well,
in that
for public
in that-
access.
So just in the faith expressions section?
No, they'll probably have to, in the faith, in the commission chamber, there's no bathroom right now. There probably won't be a bathroom in that section either, but there will be a walkway between the commission chamber and the front of City Hall, much like this. So that's where the bathrooms will have to be constructed over there, so. And there are no bathrooms there now, so, yeah. Well, the one thing that I know before, the 2 new commissioners got on, Ms. Walla is aware of, when we went through this, I had asked the prior city administrator to do multiple walkthroughs, and they never happened. And things like this could have, like the ADA bathroom, we could have caught it sooner. Now playing catch up. So, might put us back a little bit to do that, but we're gonna do it right the first time when we go in there, so. So we're trying to involve as much city staff. Mr. Schwint is the project manager now, he's been assigned. So if you, he's on a day-to-day basis working with whoever needs to get in and out of the building. So I would say if you guys want some updates, contact Mr. Schwint. And he's doing a great job with that. So he came in, went through the building, and you know, that's when he decided that it was time to call in total control, just have that walkthrough and have that inspection done. So probably should have had done a lot sooner, but now like I said, we're dealing with it now. So, but the next walkthrough, we'll make sure, if anything, if there are more than two want to go, if Mr. Oderman wants to go too, we'll set it up as a special meeting, and I guess the only concerns then will be with the bank, and you know, when it's actually the insurance center, so they'll just have to, if it's a special meeting, that means the public can attend. So, but we'll have public in there anyway with architects, so. And we can do that, that's easy enough, and everybody can walk through and see what we're dealing with.
And when do you have the next walkthrough? Sorry.
I don't think Mrs. Carlson has scheduled that yet. Has she, Mr. Schwint? No, they have not. So we're going to probably, you know, extend the RFP deadline so they can get an adequate time frame to get in there and look at it. So. Anything else? Commissioners, this is your time.
I know Nikki had shared with me, and I've heard from some other city entities that there are businesses in the city wondering if we're going to take any stances or do anything with if we're going to be following what the governor says, or if we're going to make different recommendations. And I think we kind of started this conversation last time a little bit, and I think we just need to be very transparent on where we want to be. And so I feel like having a discussion on that, and you know, being transparent on, as a city commission, on how we want to lead the city, if we want to impose more regulations or have our current just follow what the governor is sharing with us. And so I have what I feel on that, but I don't know if anyone else wants to share.
So share what your feelings are.
I feel we should follow what the governor is saying and not impose extra restrictions, that we should continue to let businesses operate. And then they need to make sure that they're being safe practicing within their business. And I feel, and so that would be how I would make a stance. And then, but I feel as a commission, we need to make that together, not just what I feel.
And that's what I've voiced. I've had multiple citizens call me and say I need to shut the city down. And I said, that is not my decision, it is a commission decision. Mm-hmm. And right now, everything the governor's putting out is just recommendations. There are no mandates, and I think what you just said is appropriate. And I've been telling business owners, take your own protective measures. Protect your staff to make sure that you can keep your businesses open. If you want to restrict access, you can restrict, you're a private entity. You can do what you want, and if people are upset with that, then they won't patronize you. But Walmart's required masks for the last 2 months, and I don't see any less traffic at Walmart.
I just had a couple of small businesses that were
Right.
concerned if we were going to do anything, and I'm like, we haven't talked about doing anything. I go, kind of, it's your call, and people are responsible for the own risk they take.
Right. I am personally against mandating anything, and I know the hardest thing, and what a lot of people don't understand, is if you mandate something, that you have to enforce it. Chief Dossinger and I have had this discussion. That is something that we don't have the manpower to constantly police every business in town to see if they're adhering to any kind of mandate. Nor do I think we want to. I personally don't want to. I think it is up to the business owners to protect their employees.
We don't have the time or the money to deal with possible legal ramifications of that as well.
Right.
So I would be with Commissioner Sobeluk and everybody else in not supporting a mandate. Leave it up to personal choice, personal decisions. I'm wearing a mask tonight, but that's because I want to finish the football season. And make sure that I don't wipe out my team by going to public meetings and things like that. But yeah, it's important for us to support personal freedoms, and people can make choices to live their life the way that they're going to live, and no matter where you stand on masks. I think the thing that I think is frustrating for everybody is we really had an opportunity, I think, this last spring for unity in this country, and people started to try to score political points based on your stance on masking or not masking, and it's caused a lot of division, and we have a bad habit of assigning malevolent intent behind someone's decision to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. And we should be leading with grace and kindness and understand people when they make the decisions that they make, and not judge them and assign some negative character trait to them based on their personal decisions. And I think if we all took that approach, this would not be as hard as I think people are making it.
Well said.
Yeah.
Right now, there is a public health meeting convening tomorrow afternoon with Southwest Health. I'm not able to attend because I will be in the interview process. But if a commissioner, I know Chief Dossinger will be in that.
Correct.
The call. If any other commissioners want to be part of that, want to, get a hold of Chief Dossinger, get the information. Again, we can't have more than 2 in there, otherwise it's a meeting.
I'm out of town.
So, Commissioner Sobeluk, Commissioner Oderman.
What time? Check.
I think it's at 1 o'clock.
Is it 1? I'll have to double check. I can send you the information.
And
If
I
you
think
can
they're
send me the information, I might be able to make it.
And I think they're doing it by Zoom. It's a Zoom meeting, right? I think it's Zoom.
Yes. I'll send you the information, Mr. Oderman.
Thank you.
You'll be gone.
Oh, you know what? It's already on my calendar.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you were probably included on the
For healthcare.
healthcare end of
Yeah.
it, so.
Weird.
So,
Yeah.
Wonderful, because I have prior commitments tomorrow after that time, so I won't be.
yeah, so I wouldn't be able, but, Chief Dossinger is gonna be in there. We'll have Commissioner Oderman. I think you can reiterate our stance, either one of you. This is something we all have to get through together, but at the same time, we cannot, I spoke with the governor's office, and they basically, I said, we can't shut down the economy. The harm, the psychological harm to these business owners and just the general public is irreversible compared to some of the other effects that are happening from the actual COVID. So, we need to keep plugging along, moving forward. Anything else, commissioners? Hearing nothing else, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. We are adjourned.